All right, so we have two different kind of conditions here for generating a long signal. So that would be number one, and this would be the second condition here that could generate a long signal using the CCI. So first thing, is that price must be above the EMA 120. So that's one of the conditions in common for both of these long signals here. So the other thing is looking at the CCI. So if the CCI is below 0 and then crosses above 0, that's one type of long signal. And then also if the CCI is above 0 and goes below, goes below 100, then crosses the 100 again. So let's see here. So here's an example of the first condition here. Yeah, so looking at the chart, so the middle line here, so down on the CCI, the middle line is the 0 line, and so it'd be 100 and 200. Yeah, 0 lines in the middle, 100, and then 200 lines, you can see. So here we go. So price, the close of the bar is above the EMA 120, and we can see that, right, the CCI crossed the 0 line. There we go. And then over here, the second type of long signal here is, again, the close of the bar is above the EMA 120. And then what we had is the CCI crossed below 100. It stayed above the 0 line and then crossed above 100 again. And then essentially it's just the opposite conditions for generating short signals. Yeah, let's just take a look here. Yeah, so here we go. So for a short signal, condition number one is simply the CCI crossed below the 0 line and the close of the bar is below the EMA 120. Then over here, we have this CCI below 0, but it crossed above negative 100 and then crossed below negative 100. And again, price is below the EMA 120. All right, so there we go. There's a couple of CCI conditions that we're going to build here. So first thing, let's find a couple of areas on the chart here. There we go. So that would be a short situation there. Let's see. No, it would not. Our price is above the EMA 120. And let's take a look. Take a look here. This looks like it is a minute chart. All right. Let's see. I mean, a tick chart's going to look like a minute chart, but I'll just switch over to a minute chart anyways. There. Okay. So now it's obvious which one's the 0 line. All right. So there's one of the short conditions, crossing the 0 line and prices below the EMA 120. Here we actually have a long signal here, right? The second long condition. So we had the CCI, right? It's above 0 and it crossed below the 100 and then crossed above the 100. So we actually have a couple of these there. Well, let's see. The markets have been in a downtrend lately, so it might be a little tough to find some long signals. Here we go. Yeah, so there's a long signal and a long signal. There we go, another long signal. All right, so these first two is just simply the CCI, right, crossing the 0 line. And the third one here, right, we can see the CCI crossed above 100 and then it crossed below 100 to cross back up again. So there we go. Yeah, I think that's all we need. All right, I think we can get started with this. Good enough. All right, so with Bloodhound open, let's see, let's give this a name here. The 0 and 100 system, something like that. There. And it's a crossover system. All right, so the first major rule here of the CCI system is price needs to be above the EMA 120 for longs or below it for shorts. So let's create that first. So I'm going to grab a, no, not a threshold, a comparison solver. All right, we're comparing the price of the bar to that EMA. Okay, Next, let's see, input A, that's going to be the closing price. So we'll set the type to price. And there we go. Now we have the closing price. Input B, that's going to be our EMA. So let's replace that SMA, change that SMA to the EMA. There we go. There's that. And change the period to 100. And looks like we have some subtle differences here. Let's see what is going on. Oh, 120. Sorry. I put in an EMA 100. Okay. Yeah. Make sure we get the settings correct. There we go. All right. There. So pretty simple, right? As long as the close of the bar is above 120, right? We're filtering out long signals. And if the close goes below the EMA 120, then we're going to be filtering out for short signals only. So there you go. There's our EMA filter. Next, we need to look for all the crossovers here. All right, so let's start grabbing some crossover solvers. We're creating two sets of signals here. Let's see, let's bring up the rules again. Let's see here, right? So we got one set of signals for longs and a second set of signals for longs. And again, since all these rules have in common is price must be above or below that EMA 120, right? So I'm going to create, one of the rules on top and then one of the rules down below here. And in the middle, right, I have that close above or below the EMA 120. I'm going to put that in the middle here. So, and that'll become apparent why once we get closer to completing all the logic. Okay, so right, let's do the CCI crossing over the 0. All right, so let's plug the CCI indicator in here. There we go, CCI. Again, we're just using the standard 14 period. And then the 0 line, so we want input B to be the 0 line. So we're going to use a fixed value, and it's set to 0. There we go. All right, so there are, right, some simple crossover signals of the CCI crossing that 0 line. So next step is to grab an AND node. Connect that in there. And there we go. So there is some filtering going on. And we can even name this here. So I'll just call this AND node like number 1, denoting it's probably, or actually instead of calling it number 1, we'll call it it's crossing over the 0 line there. Okay, that's simply one of the easier rules. So now we'll work on the more complicated one. So now we need to detect the cross down and then cross back up of the 100 line or the negative 100 line. All right, so we're going to need a couple of crossovers for this one here. All right, so first let's just let's just set up some crossovers. All right, so there's our CCI, and then input B, again, we'll set that to fixed value, and we're looking to cross the 100 line. All right, there's one, and at the same time, I'm going to create its opposite twin here. So I'm going to go to the solvers list. Right, so there's that CCI crossing over the positive 100. I'm going to make a copy of that. And this one will be crossing the negative 100. So I'll just go in there and change the values to a negative 100. There we go. So now I have two solvers one for crossing the positive 100, one for crossing the negative 100. So next, if I go to existing nodes, there is that solver I just made. All right, so I have my two solvers there. Let's see, I'm gonna try and find actually a better spot on my chart here, because in this example, we had, right, the CCI crossed the 100 and then immediately crossed down and crossed back up. I'm gonna try and find a situation where there's a few bars, in between the cross up and the crossing down and the crossing back up. So give me a moment here to kind of scan through the chart and see if I can find something like that. Yes, actually, it's not. Yeah, I didn't have to wait too long. So there we go. There. So yeah, so we had the CCI right above the 100, then it crossed down for a little ways, and then it crossed back up. Yeah. That'll work out. Yeah, this will work out for our little test environment spot here. So the first thing we need to identify is the cross down. That cross down. But this cross down, it's giving us a short output, right? But what we're ultimately looking for is a long output. So this short cross down needs to be converted into a long output here. So let's use a long short modifier. Like so. And so this long short modifier is using the swap mode, right? So the mode we want is swap. So that's the default mode, so we didn't have to change anything. And there we go. If we look on our chart, right, this cross down has now been reversed, right, to a long. And let's see, next, let's put this into, let's see, yeah, we'll try a toggle node here. So I'm going to put this into a toggle node. And what it's going to do, right, is it's holding on to this cross down, right, and until we get that cross up. But we'll need to make some adjustments here because, right, when the CCI crosses back up, we need the toggle node to stay long for at least one more bar, right, for that first bar after the CCI crosses above the 100. But we can see, right, the toggle node switches to a short. So we'll make some adjustments here to get rid of that. There. So what I'm using is I'm going to use the reset connector on the toggle node here. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the crossover signal with a look back and I'm delaying it by 1 bar. So what I want from the look back is the displacement, right? So this displacement is going to shift the crossover signal by 1 bar. It's going to delay it by 1 bar, right? So if we look at what's coming out of the look back, right, the cross up signal and the cross down signal, we can see they're delayed by 1 bar, right? They're 1 bar afterwards. So delaying the crossover is also going to delay resetting the toggle node here. So there. All right. If we look at Bloodhound's output, right, the toggle node turns on. So if we look at the long output here, right, we get the cross down. Let's move this arrow over a little bit. There we go. So we get the cross below the 100. The toggle node turns on. We get our long output, right? So we have the first condition of this, this signal met. And then when the CCI crosses above 100, right? If we look at Bloodhound's output, we can still see we're getting a long output. And then it turns off one bar afterwards. It turns off on the bar afterwards, right? And that was because we used this look back with a displacement, which delayed the signal that's turning off the toggle node, right? So with the toggle node, when we get a signal coming into the input, so remember, if you look closely at the toggle node, right, we have an input connector. So when a signal comes in, it turns the toggle node on. And then on the reset, when another signal comes in, it turns it off. And we're using the on signal to turn it off just simply because of how I hooked the look back up, right? So remember, the swapped is reversing the signal. So what's coming out of the crossover solver, is the correct signals. And I've got my look back connected to the correct signals. So that is why the toggle node is using on signal to turn the toggle node on, and then on signal to turn the toggle node off. Now, if I wanted to, there's lots of ways you can mix and match this, but I could take, right, the long short modifier, connect it into the look back here, and actually I'm going to rename the look back. What this is doing is just doing a displacement of 1 for me there. Now, if I do this, right, if I connect my look back up this way, then I would need to go into the reset and make some adjustments here, like so. So there, if we look at the output, now it's the same again. So it just depends on what you're connecting the reset to, right? So if I'm going to use the reversed signals, then for the toggle node, I'd use on signal to turn the toggle node on, and then I would use the opposite signal to turn the toggle node off. So it doesn't matter how you do this for this particular situation, but and normally, when you're turning a toggle node off, this is probably a more standard way of setting the toggle node up, where you're using on signal to turn the toggle node on, and then usually you're using the opposite signal to turn it back off. So, right. So the way I had it set up previously, like this, was a little atypical. So I'll just leave it like this. All right, so essentially this toggle node is this check, to see that we had the CCI above the 100, and then it dipped down below it and then crossed back up. So what we also need to do is make sure that the CCI didn't cross below 0 and then back up. Right, that was one of the rules here. Yeah, so the CCI is above 0 while, so it goes below 100, and this probably should be reversed. So probably should say goes below 100 and then stays above 0. I think that was the intent of this, right? And then crosses the 100 again. Yeah, so we need to check for this, the CCI crossing the 0 line. Doesn't look like it did it here, but what we can do, let's see here. So if I wanted to, I could take the CCI and just connect it way down here, but instead, I'm just going to drop another CCI crossing the 0 line. Let's see. So I actually have there's actually two situations here, two conditions that needs to turn off the toggle node, right? So the first condition is if that CCI crosses the 0 line, right, first before it crosses back the 100. So if that crosses the 0 line, right, that violates the rule. So we need to turn that toggle node off. So that way we can't get the CCI crossing the 100 again, right? And then of course the other condition is already built. After the CCI crosses the 100, well, we need to turn that toggle node off. So we're done with it. Let's see here. So, and you'll notice, let's see. So again, I just want to point out that out of this lookback node, so what's coming out of this lookback node is this short signal is what's turning the toggle node off. And if I look at my crossover, right, my CCI crossing over the 0 line, right, it also would give me a short signal when it crosses that 0 line. So we can see here the CCI crossed the 0 line here, we got a short. So if it did cross the 0 line here, we'd also get a short, right? And so the thing is that so what's turning the toggle node off, I want that to be the same. So it's only short signals. Remember, I have on opposite signals. So only short signals are turning that toggle node off. So both the lookback and the crossover solver are going to be outputting a short signal to turn that toggle node off. All right, so next I need an OR node. Connect that in. All right, so there we go. So there's the short signal. That's going to be turning the toggle node off. And let's just double check it. Make sure it looks correct. And there we go. So everything still looks the same, right? The output of the toggle node is still the same. And I wonder, yeah, here we go. So here's the CCI. Well, actually, let's see. Yeah, if we take a look here, the CCI crossed 100 and then also crossed 0, and the toggle node never turned on, right? We don't have any long output from that toggle node, so the toggle node never turned on. So when the CCI crosses 100 again, right, there's no possibility of getting a long signal there. And let's check here. Here we go. Great. So here's the situation. So the CCI crosses below 100, the toggle node turns on, right? The CCI is between 0 and 100. That toggle node is on, but when the CCI crossed below 0, our toggle node turned off. So therefore, when the CCI crosses 100, again, that toggle node is off, and so we won't get any signal of crossing the 100 there. Let's see here. So let me mark this. There we go. So I'll mark that so we know that that's a good example of the CCI crossing the 100 as failing there. So let's go back here to where we were working. There. All right. So we're getting there. So here's our CCI crossing 100, right? So there we go. There's a long signal when it crosses that 100. And the toggle node, right? Basically, this is kind of our filter here. So let's rename this here. Let's just call it the filter here. So now when we take our filters and then connect in the raw signals, now we get our filtered CCI signal. Let's see if we can find, well, let's see. Yeah, we should be getting a signal there. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to need, we're going to need a better design of resetting the toggle node. All right. Yeah. So these quick switchovers, these quick, it's crossover and then cross back down and cross back up. Because we need this delay. Because we need this delay to turn the toggle node off. What's happening, right? Is we're getting all these, we're getting these crossover signals turning the toggle node off too soon. So let's see here. Well, it's an interesting puzzle. So the key to getting this to work is getting the reset logic, working correctly as expected here. And what's messing things up is these quick cross-ups. We had the CCI making some really fast moves. So cross below 0, crossed 100, cross below 100, cross back up. So we get these really quick moves. So these very fast moves, because we need a 1-bar delay, all these cross-ups are interfering with each other. They're interfering, with our reset conditions to reset the toggle node. All right. So, I think what I've done here is the long short modifier. I turned off the short signals. Turn that off. Because we don't care about. I was using the short signals to if I remember the toggle node. I was using the short signals to turn it off. However, I'll have to go back to my original design and use the long signals to turn it back off. So, no, still kind of stuck with the same situation, which is, so this first cross up is being delayed, right, by 1 bar over here. So this cross up is turning off the toggle node when we get the cross down. That's a good thing we edit these videos to cut out this long pause here. So I'm just trying to think of some ways I can address this quick cross up, cross down, cross up. It's these, crossing, one after another. It's causing this, causing the problem that we're having. Take a look at the screenshot. All right. So I'm going to guess that here by this screenshot that having, we do have the CCI crossing above -100 and immediately crossing back down. So I guess we'll assume that this, crossing 100 and crossing it again right afterwards is acceptable. All right. So, so what's the answer here? I think the way I'm going to try and approach this is using a signal counter. Let's see, because we're not interested in the first cross up. We're interested in the second cross up. So I think this is going to be the solution here, is to basically ignore or block the first cross of the 100 and only get a signal for the second cross up of the 100 line. Let me scan through here a little bit. So even going back here, we'd look for the first cross up, but we don't want to get this signal here we want to get the second cross up. I'm going to have to make some assumptions here. So yeah, I'm going to assume that the first cross up after crossing the 0 line, that's the one we want to block. So any additional cross ups, you know, after, so the second, third, and so forth, you know, crossings of the 100 line, we want to keep. But the first cross of the 100 after crossing the 0 line, yeah, we want to block that one, ignore that one. So it's just changing the perspective. Yeah, gave me this solution. So when the CCI crosses the 100 the first time, we're going to block that one. And the way we know this is the first cross is because the CCI had to cross the 0 line first. All right, so let's figure out some kind of logic for that. All right, so here, CCI crossing the 0 line. You know, all this blocking, yeah, the logic for blocking is kind of counterintuitive sometimes. Yeah, all right, so let me grab a signal counter, and I'm going to approach it this way. All right, so with the signal counter, yeah, we want the second signal. So we're going to count up to 2 to the second signal. A look back period, well, that is the subjective part. I'm just going to assume for now that 100 bars is probably going to be plenty. And let's see, the output style, yeah, most people want to use digital. And actually for this situation, we want to use digital. Oh, and then we need a reset here. So let's use crossing the 0 line, right? So when that CCI crosses the 0 line, that'll reset our signal counter. And let's see, reset signal. Yeah, I'm guessing reset signal works. Let's see here. No, it's not working here. Let's see here. Let's turn that off. I think we want reset opposite signal. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's reorganize these a little bit here. All right, so what do we have so far? Let's take a look. All right, let's get rid of some of these arrows. So that's the first crossover of the 100. And then here's the second crossover of the 100. And there we go. And now the signal counter is on. So we've managed to get rid of, right, the first one, the first cross of the 100. And as the CCI, when the CCI crosses the 0 line, right, the signal counter turns off. There we go, it's turned off. And let's see, what else? Yeah, we actually don't want the signal counter generating shorts. All right. Yeah, so I'm going to add a little filtering mechanism. And I'm going to use the inverter. Actually, no. I mean, the inverter works, but I think the long-short modifier probably will make more sense to people just purely because of the name. So what I'm using the long-short modifier for is I want to strip out the short signals. That's it. So the mode is set to none. So we're not actually doing any modifying of the signals. So with mode set to none, but what I want to do is I want to remove the short signals. So let's name this here. There. All right, so we're taking the crossover signals of crossing the positive 100, and I removed all the shorts. So there. So we can see whenever the CCI crosses below the 100, there's no short signal, right? I stripped that out. So now I can feed that into the signal counter, and now things are a lot cleaner. Here we go. Things are a lot clearer now. Yeah, so let's recap what we have here. So when the CCI crosses the 100 the first time, right, crosses after crossing 0. So CCI has got to cross 0 first, and then the first time it crosses 100, right, no, there's no output. The second time the CCI crosses 100, now we have an output. And then the signal counter turns off if the CCI goes below 100. Then it turns off. So there we go. So we have basically a filtering mechanism that's right identifying the second time. It's identifying the second time that the CCI crosses 100. So here we go. The CCI is below 0. It crosses the 100 the first time, and nothing. Right? No output. And then the CCI dips below 100, crosses above it for the second time. And now we have an output until the CCI crosses below 0 again. Okay. So we have a filtering mechanism. There we go. All right. So next we need to, let's see here, connect our delay and our signal counter. And let's see. There we go. All right. So remember, yeah, this is our reset signals here. Let's give this a name here. So this is kind of our cleaned up reset signals. There, things are getting a little messy, but it's all right. There, let's move this down like that. There we go. There, that looks a little cleaner. All right, let's take a look. I think this is all gonna work out okay now. Let's see, I'm missing one more component here. So yeah, so our reset logic got a little more complex. There, situate that out. Okay, so let's take a step back and analyze what we're looking at here. So if we look at this now, so what we're looking at is the toggle node, right? So remember, this toggle node is it's the filter that identifies. So the CCI crosses below 100, and so this is our filter that the CCI crossed below 100 prior to crossing above the 100 again. And let's see. So we have that filter again. Although if the CCI crosses at 0, it should be turning that filter off. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, right. All right. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to, because, well, no. All right. No, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna keep this the way it is. All right. So, yeah, kind of take a step back and recap here. Right. So our toggle node, right, when the CCI dips below 100, our toggle node turns on. And then when the CCI crosses the 100 again, right, a bar after the crossover, it turns back off, right? And it's the long signal that turns it off. So let me put my arrow here on the bar that the toggle node turned off. So let's take a look at their signals here. So we're getting a long signal is turning off the toggle node. When the toggle node is long, a long signal is turning it off. But when the CCI crosses the 0 line here, if we zoom in here, right, it's this CCI crossing the 0 line. If we look at that, we're getting a short signal. So we need to reverse this signal as well. Yeah, so I'm going to grab another long short modifier. And we're going to use swap mode, like so. So there we go. So now this cross down was swapped or reversed to a long signal. So now that will, yeah, so if we look at our, basically our reset signals here, let's see, oh, let's disconnect that. There we go. Sometimes we got to zoom in here to disconnect these leaders. There we go. Got rid of that one. So there, our crossover solver, the output is getting swapped or reversed and then going into the OR node. So there we go. So here's our long signals that's turning off, or resetting, turning off this toggle node. Let's take a look at it again. Yeah, there we go. So the CCI crosses below the 100. The toggle node turns on, right, in preparation for crossing above the 100 again. Same thing over here. The CCI came below 100. The toggle node's turned on in case the CCI crosses the 100 again. But instead, it crosses below 0, and so we turn our toggle node off. And so now this AND node, if we look at that, so this AND node, it's taking our crossover solver. Right, so if we take a look at this, right, so this is the CCI crossing the 100. Right, so we're taking the raw signals and then taking our filter, and together we get the proper signals. All right, so there's our first signal. Yeah, there is a good signal. Yeah, and here's a bunch here. So we have the CCI, right, above the 0 line. It's crossed the 100. It came back down, crossed back up again, came back down, crossed the 100 again, came back down, crossed the 100 again. Right, so it's doing this a bunch of times. And then if it crosses the 0 line, then, right, no more signals crossing the 100 line, of course. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Let's go back here. Right. This is where I marked earlier. The CCI dips below 100, and then it also crossed the 0 line, so that invalidated this setup. And so when the CCI crossed the 100 for the second time, there was no signal because it crossed the 100, which invalidated this setup here. Okay, and so if we take a look at that, if we zoom in here, right, remember these are our reset signals here. And so when the CCI comes down, let's grab an arrow. There, so when the CCI comes down, crosses the 0 line, right, we get a long output and it turns the toggle node off. So if we look at our toggle node, there we go. CCI crosses below 100. Our toggle node turns on in preparation for the CCI to cross the 100 again, but it doesn't. It crosses 0 first, and the toggle node gets turned off. So that way, this crossover, yeah, this CCI crossing the 100 doesn't get through, right? It gets filtered out. So let's connect that up. So yeah, so there we have it for the longs. So let's scroll through the chart and just kind of see if anything looks amiss. All right. Yeah, so CCI, there we go, crosses 100, crosses below it, crosses above it again. Oh, and we also need to add our EMA 120 filter as well. Well, let's see. This EMA 120 solver, if we zoom in here, right? This is the solver there. So to keep things kind of clean, let's see, I'm going to move this forward. Yeah, to keep this kind of clean, what I'm going to do is go to my existing nodes, and there we go. So there's that solver comparing the close of the bar to the EMA 120. I'll drop that on here, put that down here, and connect that filter in. There. All right. So, so instead of, connecting leaders all over the place and getting a bunch of crisscrossing leaders, you don't have to. You can actually drop the same object on the board twice. So this node and this node is the same object, right? They're not copies of each other. They're literally the same object. And the way we can tell is if we go to our list of solvers, right, there's only one solver with this name, right? There aren't two of them. It's just one solver, but we can visually see it on the chart, on the logic board twice. So kind of one way to kind of keep all your leaders kind of cleaned up a little bit. And let's see, next. If we use an OR node, we can connect these two different signals together and combine them into one, like so. So, yeah. So we have some of the signals, all right? So we have the CCI crossing the 0 line, right? So price is below our EMA 120. So we're going to get only short crosses below the 0 line. So, and here, right, price crossed above our EMA 120 for a little bit. And so now we're getting the second long signal of the CCI crossing 100. And let's see, a bunch of downtrends. So we're getting the CCI crossing the 0. Yep, crossing the 0. So, and here we go. So it's a bit of an uptrend. So, all right, the closing price is above the EMA. And so now we're getting a bunch of crossover signals. And let's kind of stretch this out and take a closer look here. There. Yeah, so a signal crossing the 0 line, CCI crossing the 0 line, a signal. CCI crossing the 0 line, a signal. And then CCI dipping below 100 and then crossing 100. Let's see, all right, CCI crosses 100. Crosses 0, sorry. CCI crosses 0 again. Price is above our EMA. And then we start getting the CCI crossing the 100 line afterwards. Yeah, several of those. Okay. So far, so good. So the one thing we're missing is the CCI crossing negative 100. There we go. So there's a couple of the CCIs crossing negative 100. So we just need to build that logic out and we'll be done. So essentially we just need to duplicate, this logic here, but using the CCI crossing -100 solver. All right, so I'm just going to kind of go through this a little quickly here. Yeah, so essentially I'm just going to, for all these function nodes, right, I can just take a look, I can take a look at the settings of the function nodes and just kind of reverse them all. So this swap mode, I'm going to turn the longs off because we're generating, right, crossing the CCI crossing -100, so this is going to be for shorts. All right, so let's connect that up. And let's see, this one's removing shorts. Again, so I'm just kind of duplicating the logic up top. I'm just duplicating it down here below. All right, we're almost done. All right, now to test it. Let's see if everything was set up correctly. Oh, bingo, look at that. There's my little red arrows, and I've got signals right on there, as expected. Let's see what we have down here. So CCI below 0, below -100, above -100, and then down below it. Yep, crosses above -100, crosses down below. All right, that all looks good. And so let's see here. Let's name some of these. Okay. So essentially, we've created 3 groups of signals. So the first one here, that's the easy one. That's just, crossing the 0 line, right? Crossing over the 0 line. And then we created a group for the when the CCI crosses the +100 or is crossing the -100, right? And you may have noticed that this is a little unique. Now, typically, you can use solvers to generate both the long and the short signal, using the same logic. Now, but you'll notice here, for when the CCI crosses the +100 versus when the CCI crosses the -100, that we actually have 2 separate groups of logic. And this is not typical, but we had to do it because if you notice, what's the key component to these 2 groups of logics? Well, it's 2 separate solvers, right? And because we're doing crossovers, right, we're detecting crossovers, right? The crossover, and also because we're using the CCI indicator, right? So, all right, so when the CCI is crossing the +100, we're only interested in long signals. So, and the crossover solver, a crossover, only detects crossing over one number, right? One input or one value. Yeah. So because we had to use, separate crossover solvers for the +100 versus the -100, we then also had to have 2 separate groups of logic. 2 logic groupings, or separate signals here. So we can just take this, connect it into the OR node, and the OR node joins everything together. Close that out. Let's expand this chart. And here, let me clean things up a little bit. And there we go. There. All right. Yeah, I think everything's looking good. So far, so good. Yeah. All right. I think everything looks good so far. So there it is. So again, this top here is the simple logic of the CCI crossing that 0 line with the EMA filter. And then we have the CCI crossing the positive 100. And then below that is the CCI crossing the negative 100. You know, pretty much most systems, most rules will end with an AND node. So it's typically how most systems end, is with an AND node. And since we had, you know, since this this question was basically 4 sets of rules, right, to make one, you know, bigger system, right? So with 4 sets of rules, yeah, so we basically built multiple systems. So, and so, yeah, so when you have like, you know, four groups of, you know, different rules or slightly different rules, then it's very typical that you will, each of the groupings of rules will end with an AND node, and then you just join them all together with an OR node, you know, to get all the signals to come out at the same time.